It's the first live stream I'm doing of the year, and I want to give you some tactics that have been quietly being added to the mix of things in terms of home buying. If you were trying to buy your first house or your next property, or you're a home buyer and you've been struggling with the high interest rates, the competitive environment, getting beat out by cash buyers, not getting approved for enough, high competition, everything like that. The good news is, quietly in the background, while everyone was distracted with politics last year, is these government institutions, despite what the economy is doing, they need people like you and I to buy houses. They need first-time home buyers. They need people that are going to occupy. It's important to the survival of their organizations, their programs, FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. They need you guys to implement this stuff. So they've been doing stuff in the background to give people the unfair advantage. The problem is that nobody's talking about it. For whatever reason, your real estate agents aren't talking about it. Your lenders aren't talking about it because they're not really following that. So what I'm gonna give to you today are 3 key things that I think is going to absolutely catapult you into 2025 if you have any interest in buying a house, in house hacking, in buying your first property and transforming it into some type of investment property or something like that for you. Let me know in the chat who's here. If you're watching this live, type live down in the chat, down in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, kudos to you for showing up and checking it out. These things are here for you. I do it for one reason and one reason only, and that is to give everyone the information that I never got when I was doing this, and the stuff that your lenders and your real estate agents aren't telling you because it doesn't benefit them. So without further ado, I want to go into this whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Cool. So these are the 3 tactics to crush house hacking in 2025. And as I said before, these are things that have been quietly happening in the background that nobody else is taking advantage of. And it's because that this stuff, the government's really good at putting things out all the time, but what they're really bad at is publicizing them. And for the most part, a lot of the stuff that the government puts out, they don't want you to know about. But this is stuff that they should let you know about. Unfortunately, they don't have really good marketing teams or anything like that. But what's cool about this is these are all things that people in my community have been doing for the last couple years, honestly. But some of these kind of new changes that they made have just really put this whole process on steroids. So we're going to cover a couple of them today. And I think if you take away these 3, you're really going to walk away with a really unfair advantage in 2025 to beat the competition. Do it in spite of the higher interest rates, the higher home values that we're still seeing. So the first thing to start out with is everything at the end of the day is all related to the unfair advantage, okay? So obviously the name of the community, my community, is the 203K way. And I call it the 203K way because the 203K loan, which many people don't understand or know about, is the way that I was able to buy a fixer-upper property in a really hot market with very little out of pocket that enabled me to turn a very small $9,500 down payment into $150,000 of equity and repeat the process to go buy more real estate. And I built that in well over $2 million in real estate over the last couple of years, and it was solely using these really little known government financing programs. So this group is dedicated to not only helping people become real estate investors and homeowners and stuff like that, but specifically how to leverage these programs like I did to turn very small down payments, $10,000, $15,000, into millions of dollars using these programs. Everything is built on the unfair advantage, which is low down payment, renovation, financing. This is 203K, Homestyle, Home Choice. These are all names for different renovation loan programs. Obviously, I am a big fan of the 203K, and I'm a fan of all of these programs. 203K is the one that I got my start with. But the whole unfair advantage here is that the 203K gives you so much ability to do, the 203K and these programs give you so much ability to give yourself such an unfair advantage in the market because it allows you to purchase a multi-unit property with very little money down. It gives you all of the money, it gives you the ability to buy fixer-upper properties that nobody else, retail buyers, don't want to buy. It gives you all the money to do all of the renovation. And now you can use these government programs and this government money with very low out of pocket from you. You can use all their money to create a lot of equity and wealth for yourself. You can use it to buy properties that are going to give you passive cash flow each month so you can make your first or next house not a thing that's going to cost you and waste you money like it does for 90% of people. It's going to be something that actually from day one is building you more cash reserves, giving you more equity, giving you cash flow that nobody else is doing. So when you're able to shop with this really different loan product. It gives you so much advantage. So the first thing I want to talk about is the new guidelines. So the new guidelines that came out this year, I want to go into a little more depth on how you're going to be able to leverage it in 2025, because the reality of it is everyone's been talking about some of these changes. That is one thing that people have been talking about, but they don't know how to use it. The good news for you is we've been using it in my community and people I've worked with over the years. I did it myself for years. Just the changes that they've made have just made it just put it on steroids. It's just way better than it's ever been. So a couple of the big ones are extending 6 to 12 month reno period, okay? Adding accessory unit, and I'm gonna go through these, accessory unit, rental income, and there was one more. The last one's escaping me, but these are the big ones. The new FHA 203K, specifically 203K guidelines, is that previously up until just the end of last year, the end of 2024, when you use a 203K, in the guidelines, it stated that you had to complete the project within 6 months. Now, the reality is that if you live anywhere in the country that has like a big building department or anything like that, sometimes the permits themselves can take a couple months. Sometimes the renovations take a long time, and they started to understand that. So what they did was they extended that to 12 months, a 12-month period. Now, here's a little insider secret. The reality is that even if it takes longer than 6 months, or even years ago, mine took 8 months, there's no penalty for going over the time period. So what people kind of understood is they look at the program and they're like, oh, well, I can't get it done in 6 months, and they would just write it off. The problem is that's just them not knowing how the program works. They say is they want you to complete it. They would have to give some timeline. If they didn't give some end point, people would just do it and then they would be renovating forever. But they want to give you some clear endpoint. But one of the things that you now know is that it's kind of irrelevant as long as you have a reason why it's taking longer. As long as it's progressing, that's fine. But what they did was they extended it to a 12-month rental period. And with that 12 months, they also allowed 12 months of wrapping mortgage payments. So you can buy and make no payments for up to 12 months. So the whole cool thing about this is that you can buy a fixer-upper property, and they understand that you probably can't live in that property while it's being fixed up. And they have that built into this program, that you're able to wrap in the mortgage payments while you're not living there because it's being renovated into the loan. Now, obviously, if you could imagine, this is a really powerful tool, right? Because imagine that everyone else on the planet, literally, when they buy a fixer-upper or anything, they still have to make the mortgage payments, the tax payments, the insurance payments, everything on these properties. If I'm flipping a house, I have to pay my investors and pay the mortgage and pay the insurance and pay the taxes on it while I'm flipping. You have an unfair advantage because you don't have to do that. That cash stays in your pocket, or it goes to finance or goes to wherever you're living in another place or whatever. What's awesome about this is that now you can buy the house, and you have to make the initial down payment, but don't have to pay anything out of pocket for up to 12 months. Imagine you go and you buy a fixer-upper, and you're building all this equity into it, and you don't have to pay anything, and by the time you get into it, it's already cash flowing, already built equity, and nothing came out of your pocket up until then. It's a huge, huge superpower. Now, the biggest thing about it is that it all, and we're gonna get into this on number 2, it all depends on the deal. Okay, now here's the thing. You're wrapping in those mortgage payments into the loan, okay? What that means is if you're paying $3,000 a month for your mortgage and you have to wrap that into your loan, right? That's 3 times 12, what is that? That's $36,000 that will additionally tap into your loan. So if you know anything about me, my biggest thing that I tell everybody is finding good deals. Because if you want to be a real estate investor, you have to find stuff where there's enough equity in it where if you're going to do all this work, you better get paid 6 figures of equity on the back end, right? So the key here is that when you're finding a property that needs ample work, the bigger of a fixer-upper it is, the better, okay? So you have the opportunity to buy these properties, wrapping all the mortgage payments into it, but by doing that, you want to make sure that you have a really good deal that you can build that $36,000 into the loan and it doesn't hurt you. So an example is, if you buy a house for, I'm just making a really rough example, guys. This is so you understand the numbers. Let's just say you buy a house for $400,000, okay? And it's a fixer-upper property, it needs a lot of work. And you find it off market, it's a foreclosure property, whatever. And you renovate it, and the renovation is gonna be about $150,000, okay? So you're all into the property. You're all in for $550,000, okay? Now, you did your due diligence and you know what it's worth, so you know it's gonna be worth probably about $650 or $675 when you're done. You found a really beat up property and something like that, you know it's gonna be worth that when you're done. Now, typically you would have built $100,000 of equity. So let's just say 100K equity, right? But now imagine this is a multi-unit property, and imagine that you're gonna be renting this out down the line for cash flow. Would you be willing to, instead of paying for that $3,000, $4,000 a month every month payment, what you can do is, let's just say you built $125,000 in equity, but the payments were going to be about $3,000 or $4,000 a month. You're looking at $30,000, $40,000 a year. Maybe you only make 80K equity immediately, okay? But that's just the equity. Remember, you saved that $36,000 that everyone else would have to pay. So you save 36K in your pocket. Now, what would you do with an extra $35,000 or something like that? Would you use that to go buy more deals? Again, this is something that you have access to and that you can take advantage of. Now, the focus is finding the right deal, so we're gonna go into that in a second, but imagine you could buy a house and not have to pay for up to a year, and then once this thing is cash flowing, the equity is built, then you start paying, but you're in a much better financial position. So they allowed this and they're doing this, and nobody's talking about this, nobody's doing it. Now, the other thing that they've added is adding the ability to forecast accessory unit rental income, okay? And what I mean by that is non-conforming or accessory units now allow for projected income. So what do I mean by that? Basically, you no longer have to only look for multifamily properties to house hack profitably. And the reason for that is they know now that there's a lot of these things, ADUs, accessory units. Basically, these are single family homes that still have a separate unit, even though they're not technically a duplex property or two-family property. People tell me all the time, there's not a lot of multifamily properties in my market. There's not a lot of quadplexes or triplexes or duplexes. That's one of the biggest complaints. With these new guidelines, they're allowing for almost every single family home in America eventually to be, or federally, they're allowing it all to be in another, basically all allow for an additional unit. What does that mean? That's gonna mean that you can make always subsidize your mortgage payments on every property that you get. Imagine you buy a Lamborghini and your payment normally would be $2,000 a month, but you only have to pay $800 a month because you bought you have someone that's using the Lamborghini a couple days a month, and you have the ability, you're renting out that. It's basically like Uber. It's like Uber for real estate, right? You're using a car as your way to finance it. You're basically putting other people in your house and using that as a way to build income on it. So this whole thing about being able to wrap that in, what this means for you is you get higher approvals, approved for more money because of this. For every $1,500 in rent that you get from an ADU, about $100,000 in buying power. So if you're one of these people that, you've been struggling to find something, your market's really saturated or it's really competitive, imagine having $100,000 more buying power. Imagine being able to leverage yourself. And again, that's only $1,500. Maybe your market's $2,000 in rent. Maybe you get $2,500 in rent in some high cost of living areas like here in New York. Now it's going to bump you up $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 more dollars that you can use to go find these fixer-uppers, get all that money for the renovation. So that's one of the key factors here is being able to wrap in that mortgage, wrap in the mortgage payments, and pair that with being able to rent out portions of the property, even if they're non-conforming, and be able to forecast that on your loan approval. And that used to only be reserved for legal two-family houses. Okay, so that's the first part. So you implement this, you have access to these guidelines and everything like this, you can take advantage of this. Now, if you need a lender that does these and understands these new guidelines, go to the203kway.com, lender, all right? And there you will fill out a form and you'll get connected with one of my lenders. They understand this. They know all these new guidelines. They know about the new, and we do these all the time with people in my community. And that's going to be one of my lender partners. You're going to be connected with Chelsea from my team. She'll connect you with the lender partner that serves your area. And you're going to be able to take advantage of this. Because once you have that pre-approval and you know what you're going to be able to afford with all these new guidelines, so that brings me to the next part. And I've done some trainings on this before, but that's the whole new hidden multifamily inventory and how to find them, okay? So one of the coolest things about these new ADU legislations and all this new accessory unit stuff, again, the biggest complaint I've seen over the years is like, Matt, there's not a lot of quadplexes or multifamily properties. I can't house hack profitably here. And I understand that. But one of the cool things is that you now have access to a whole single family portfolio of properties that are out there that nobody else knows, or you're able to make income producing units and also get the financing as if they're income producing units. So again, you're getting access to financing that nobody else knows about, and you can use this to your advantage. Okay, so what I call them like hidden duplexes. Okay, so these are properties that act as two-family properties, and a lot of the people that I've been working with in my community and people that have been, people that we've been working with across the board on the lending side and everything like that have been using these. And we were just talking about a deal they're doing today where they're doing something like this, and they're basically scheduling out. It's like a separate unit in the house, and it gave them a huge bump in their ability to buy the property. Okay, so these are properties that are already set up for multi-unit setups, but they're not technically a duplex, okay? So properties like split level homes, basement apartment properties that have a detached garage or even an attached garage with a separate entrance unit. These are all keywords you want to look at when you look at Zillow, okay? So split level, mother-daughter, accessory, whatever you get, outside entrance. Okay, so it always depends in your area, but if you go to Zillow, right, and you go here and you put in one of these keywords down here, you could do like mother, daughter. Okay, what you could do is you look for properties that are set up like this is one, that's a little higher level. So what I like to do is when I do look up stuff, I like to sort by lowest price first, just because, again, it's like a good way to look for properties that actually need help. Now, this doesn't need a lot of work, but you can see here that there's it's a split level house. So it usually has a separate entrance downstairs. Yeah, you could see like there's a split level here. So that would be one unit and that would be another unit. And now what you can do on these is you can go to your lender and say, hey, what's the rent going to be for this downstairs? Now, this is one of the things that we've been using that's been working tremendously well for people. And again, using keywords like split level, mother-daughter, accessory, outside entrance, this is going to put you way above and beyond even the retail buyers, because they don't know that they can get approved for more, to do a renovation, do something that's going to increase the equity on the property very quickly. Now that leads me to the third thing, and this is something that I've really never spoken to anybody about yet. Number 3 is, I think, what probably everybody is. This is the biggest unwritten rule, and I'm doing it with my own property right now. And I'm going to use my own property as an example because we're doing a renovation loan on our property. And one of the things that I figured out recently is like the biggest way to get a biggest boost of increase in net worth and your equity. So who here wants to see a lot more equity on the back end on their deal? Who here would like to be able to pick 2 quick numbers where you can go and find out very quickly if you're going to make money on your property or not, simply by finding 2 very quick numbers? Let me know in the chat if you want to hear about that. And I'm going to show you, and we're going to make it really simple. Obviously, what you put in is what you get out of this. The more you analyze it and the more you understand it, the better or more accurate the numbers are going to be. All right? So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. We're going to talk about something that I call equity arbitrage. Now, I'm sure people have heard arbitrage before. Maybe you've heard of Airbnb arbitrage, right? What's funny about those things is that it's a fancy word of basically saying like, hey, we're going to find the value, we're going to find something for undervalue here, and we're going to find a better place to put it at a higher value, and we're basically going to make money on the difference. I mean, it's basically how business is in general. It's a fancy way to say doing business, but really what it is you're basically finding a high value use for something and then finding a low value use for something. So equity arbitrage is doing the same thing with equity on a house. And what I mean by that is what we're looking for here is we're looking for value add opportunities. squeezing the sponge, we'll call it. So what we're doing here is when we look at a property, the first things we want to look at, and pay attention to this because this is probably one of the most important things I'm going to cover. So the value add opportunities you look at in a property, now obviously we look at a property, and what you're doing with this is you're looking at these properties and you're looking at it differently than everybody else in the market because you know you can fit an accessory unit into this extra space. You don't have to build something brand new, but because you're using a renovation loan and you're getting all the money to renovate it, you're able to look, I could put an accessory unit here. I can add a bedroom here. But most importantly, you can see where you can add livable square footage. And that's where this is really tying into number 2 and number 3. And this is the linchpin on what's really going to crush it for you in 2025, okay? So what we're doing is you want to go in and you want to look for these value add opportunities, right? So you want to look for, unfinished basements or detached garages or screened in porch, or unutilized mother-daughter, or ability to add dormer, bump out, okay? So what you're doing is you're looking at these properties and you're looking like, hey, we have an unfinished basement that we can convert into living space. We have a detached garage that we can convert into living space. There's a screened-in porch that's attached to the house that we could just blow out and add an extension on. So this is what me and my wife did. We did this on our own property. We bought the house. It was 2,400 square foot. We actually built almost over 800 square foot onto it. So we're looking at 3,200, 3,300 square feet. Now here's where it gets fun, okay? So here's the 2 simple numbers that you need to know in order to find this out very quickly, okay? So your average, top of market price per square foot, okay? And cost of renovation. All right, sorry guys, it's hard that I'm juggling with one laptop. All right, we got this. All right, cool. So there's 2 quick things that you want to know, right? You want to know the top of market price per square foot in your area, okay? So you want to know roughly what the fixed up homes are going for in your area, and then you want to know the cost to renovate or add square footage in your area. And it could be done very, very quickly, okay? So one of the ways to do it is, again, you can go back here and I would get rid of, rid of the filter here, hit apply. But let's just say, let's just use my market, for example, right? Let's just use Massapequa because this is what I'm familiar with and this is where I live, so you can come find me. But what you're able to do is you're able to go into your area, into your markets, right? There's got to be more houses for sale around here. No, there's not. So what you could do around here is you could go to recently sold, okay? And you could go here sold in the last 6 months, or I like to get even closer. I like to say like 90 days, okay? And what you can do is you could look at the price per square foot of properties sold that were fixer-uppers, that were really nice, that were in good condition, right? That's not a good one. These all look like they're, this one maybe, this looks like it was probably a flip. So this really isn't a good example. We could do, what else? Have this one here. So this one's like, I don't know what the square footage is here, but you can go to Redfin and do this very quickly too. But basically what you want to do is you want to get the price per square foot of recently sold homes in the area. Let's see this one. This one's pretty high up there. Does this have the square footage? No, but this is a good one. This is a good flip. I don't know what the square footage is here, but I know properties in this area are probably around 2,800 or something like that. That's probably what it would be. So this is $1 million property, and it's about 2,800 square feet, right? So you're looking at, $350 a square foot, I know in my area it's 400 a square foot, so this is probably smaller than that. This is maybe a 2,000 square feet, but I know from knowing my market very well, it's 400 to 450 a square foot, okay? So what I would do here is I would come back and put, all right, we're probably in the range of 400 to 425 a square foot, okay? And that's for newly renovated houses, okay? Now, I also know that the cost of doing renovations in my market is about 200 a square foot to add square footage, do everything like that. So when you know those two numbers, you're able to take this and you're able to go and know that, hey, listen, if I could renovate to 400 a square foot and I can add in these areas, in these detached garage screening porches using the bank's money, and even if it costs me $300 a square foot, I'm making $100 a square foot on each plan, right? So the property I have right now, we renovated to about $300 a square foot, but we're all in. We increased the value in the property $400,000, $500,000 because of using this concept. We actually did the screened-in porch thing, right? So we went in, we added the screened-in porch, we added some dormers on the top of the house, using the bank's money to do it. And then we were able to see that difference, and we knew that in the top of market 400, 450 a square foot range, that we were able to do the renovation for two to 300, including buying the property and everything like that. We're making an extra $100 per square foot on our property. So because we have the ability to see properties and be able to renovate them and add square footage, which is the most important thing, I won't say livable, that is by far and large the best way to increase value on a property. You're able to do that, and you're able to take this and put it into something that immediately is going to create equity for you. And again, in our case, give you a couple $100,000 that you can then take and go buy more real estate with, right? So these are the key points. These are the tactics that you need to focus on in 2025 because nobody is doing this right now. This is something that gives you the unfair advantage in 2025 so that you can actually go out and look at the market differently than everybody else is. Because what I can tell you right now is if you do what everyone else is doing, 99% of people, which is just using a realtor and just looking at everything cookie cutter and just looking at the asking price on a property and not finding different ways to squeeze the sponge. If I could wrap everything up, how to win in 2025, squeeze the sponge. And I'm gonna run with that. Squeeze the sponge, right? So find ways to add value to square footage, maximize square footage by renting it out, and most importantly, using the bank's money and new guidelines to do it cheaper than everybody else. And that's the key, and that's how to win 2025 as a home buyer and as a house hacker. All right. So these are the three key concepts, right? These are the things that you want to focus on. These are all concepts that we've been doing and implementing, but given the new guidelines and the new changes, I know that going into 2025, these are going to be the ways to crush it and attack it. These are the frameworks I want you to follow. These are the things that we want to follow so you could take this and go implement this, and I know that you're going to make some headway with this, okay? In addition to that, as I mentioned before, we have our 203K Way Inner Circle. So if you're watching this and you're the type of person that's like, hey, I really want to do this, I just want to make sure to do it right and do it right the first time and get your help doing it, that's where I come in, that's where the community comes in, and we walk you through this process step by step. Because as you could assume, this is a lot, and this is a lot to unpack, but we've been doing this and implementing it privately with my own clients, people that I work with closely through the last 5 years and into 2025 and beyond. This is a process that we know very deeply. Again, I want you to take advantage of this, but if you're the type of person that's looking for me or someone, me or my community, both of us together to help you crush this in 2025 I've opened up, there's a couple spots that are open right now. We have a couple people that just finished up their deals in our community. So a couple spots that opened up for the beginning of the year. If you want to use 2025 as a vehicle, I'll invite you to apply. It's not open to everyone. You have to apply for it, the 203kway.com/apply. We have a couple people in the community here. You could vouch for the community. You know that we are no joke in here. We're all in. And if you want to do that, you could go to the 203kway.com/apply. It'll just bring you to a page just to ask a little questions to make sure that you're a fit for this. Then you'll jump on a call with me personally. We'll talk about what it looks like and then what the program looks like to join and be part of it and enroll. So if you're interested in that and actually taking some of these tactics of what we're talking about and actually implementing them together, I wanted to give you the opportunity. If you're that person that's interested in it, I always like working with the right people, and we're very hands-on. So I love the opportunity to work with some new people in 2025 and really implement this strategy with all these new changes, especially what we're doing. We're already seeing such a big influx in people getting good deals right now because of what's going on with the economy and what's going on with this stuff. So I invite you to be a part of it. I hope you got a lot out of this training. I saw a bunch of people had some questions. I'll go back and walk through all the training and everything like that too. Can we get this document to familiarize and follow? I don't make these public because like these are the trainings that I do. So I mean, you can always come back. This will be in the group. Melissa, yes, Melissa's in the group. Matt gives so much value. Appreciate that. We're all here to help you and assist you. Any way I can help you guys out, let me know. But yeah, we will wrap it up. If you have any questions, let me know on the process. What we're able to do here is make sure that, you know, as part of the community, we want to see you win. So whether we work together or not, we want to make sure that we win. Obviously, working together, we want to get you there faster and most profitably, and that's what I guarantee when we work together. So we're going to be doing more of these trainings. There's so much to unpack with this year, especially with the new changes. Go ahead, take what we talked about today, implement it. Let's crush 2025, and we will see you guys on the next one.